Welcome to the reading of the Sabbath School lesson for the second quarter of 2022. Welcome to lesson number 12 in the series on Genesis. It's titled Joseph, Prince of Egypt, ready for teaching on June 18, and I'm Percy Harrold. Monday, June 13. Joseph confronts his brothers. Read Genesis chapter 42. What happened here? And how does it reveal the providence of God despite human evil and malfeasance? Genesis chapter 42, beginning at verse 1. When Jacob saw that there was grain in Egypt, Jacob said to his sons, "Why do you look at one another?" And he said, "Indeed, I have heard that there is grain in Egypt. Go down to that place and buy for us there, that we may live and not die." So Joseph's 10 brothers went down to buy grain in Egypt. But Jacob did not send Joseph's brother Benjamin with his brothers, for he said, "Lest some calamity befall him." And the sons of Israel went to buy grain among those who journeyed, for the famine was in the land of Canaan. Now Joseph was governor over the land, and it was he who sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brothers came and bowed down before him with their faces to the earth. Joseph saw his brothers and recognized them, but he acted as a stranger to them and spoke roughly to them. Then he said to them, "Where do you come from?" And they said, "From the land of Canaan, to buy food." So Joseph recognized his brothers, but they did not recognize him. Then Joseph remembered the dreams which he had dreamed about them, and said to them, "You are spies. You have come to see the nakedness of the land." And they said to him, "No, my lord, but your servants have come to buy food. We are all one man's sons. We are honest men. Your servants are not spies." But he said to them, "No, but you have come to see the nakedness of the land." And they said, "Your servants are 12 brothers, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan. And in fact, the youngest is with our father today, and one is no more." But Joseph said to them, "It is as I spoke to you, saying, 'You are spies.' In this manner you shall be tested. By the life of Pharaoh you shall not leave this place until your youngest brother comes here. Send one of you, and let him bring your brother, and you shall be kept in prison, that your words may be tested to see whether there is any truth in you. Or else, by the life of Pharaoh, surely you are spies." So he put them all together in prison 3 days. Then Joseph said to them the 3rd day, "Do this and live, for I fear God. If you are honest men, let one of your brothers be confined to your prison house, but you go and carry grain for the famine of your houses, and bring your youngest brother to me, so your words will be verified, and you shall not die." And they did so. Then they said to one another, "We are truly guilty concerning our brother, for we saw the anguish of his soul when he pleaded with us, and we would not hear. Therefore this distress has come upon us." And Reuben answered them, saying, "Did I not speak to you, saying, 'Do not sin against the boy,' and you would not listen? Therefore, behold, his blood is now required of us." But they did not know that Joseph understood them, for he spoke to them through an interpreter. And he turned himself away from them and wept. Then he returned to them again and talked with them. And he took Simeon from them and bound him before their eyes. Then Joseph gave a command to fill their sacks with grain, to restore every man's money to his sack, and to give them provisions for the journey. Thus he did for them. So they loaded their donkeys with the grain and departed from there. But as one of them opened his sack to give his donkey feed at the encampment, he saw his money, and there it was, in the mouth of the sack. So he said to his brothers, "My money has been restored, and there it is, in my sack." Then their hearts failed them, and they were afraid, saying to one another, "What is this that God has done to us?" Then they went to Jacob their father in the land of Canaan, and told him all that had happened to them, saying, "The man who is lord of the land spoke roughly to us, and took us for spies of the country. But we said to him, 'We are honest men, we are not spies. We are 12 brothers, sons of our father. One is no more, and the youngest is with our father this day in the land of Canaan. Then the man, the lord of the country, said to us, By this I will know that you are honest men. Leave one of your brothers here with me, take food for the famine of your households, and be gone. And bring your youngest brother to me, so I shall know that you are not spies, but that you are honest men. I will grant your brother to you, and you may trade in the land. Then it happened, as they emptied their sacks, that surprisingly each man's bundle of money was in his sack. And when they and their father saw the bundles of money, they were afraid. And Jacob their father said to them, You have bereaved me. Joseph is no more, Simeon is no more, and you want to take Benjamin? All these things are against me. Then Reuben spoke to his father, saying, Kill my 2 sons if I do not bring him back to you. Put him in my hands, and I will bring him back to you. But he said, My son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead, and he is left alone. If any calamity shall befall him along the way in which you go, then you would bring down my grey hair with sorrow to the grave. The famine obliges Jacob to send his sons to Egypt to buy grain. Ironically, it is Jacob who initiates the project we read in verse 1. The unfortunate old man, a victim of circumstances beyond his control, unknowingly sets in motion an amazing chain of events that will lead to being reunited with the son for whom he had mourned so long. The providential nature of this meeting is highlighted through 2 fundamental characters. First, it is seen as a fulfillment of Joseph's dreams. The event predicted in Joseph's prophetic dreams, your sheaves bound down to my sheaf in Genesis 37:7, is now taking place. Joseph is identified as the governor over the land in verse 6 and the lord of the land in verses 30 and 33. Joseph's powerful position contrasts with that of his needy brothers who, in verse 6, bowed down before him with their faces to the earth. The same 10 brothers who mocked Joseph about his dream and doubted its fulfillment, as we read in Genesis 37 and verse 8. And his brothers said to him, Shall you indeed reign over us, or shall you indeed have dominion over us? So they hated him even more for his dreams and for his words. Second, this providential meeting is described as a response. The linguistic and thematic echoes between the 2 events underline the character of just retribution. The phrase, they said to one another in Genesis 42:21 also was used when they began to plot against Joseph in chapter 37 verse 19. Then they said to one another, Look, this dreamer is coming. The brothers' sojourn in prison in chapter 42 verse 17 echoes Joseph's sojourn in prison in chapter 40 and verse 3 and 4. So he put them in custody in the house of the captain of the guard in the prison, the place where Joseph was confined. And the captain of the guard chose Joseph with them, and he served them, so they were in custody for a while. In fact, Joseph's brothers relate what is currently happening to them to what they did to their brother perhaps 20 years ago. Verse 21 reads, Then they said to one another, We are truly guilty concerning our brother, for we saw the anguish of his soul when he pleaded with us, and we would not hear. Therefore this distress has come upon us. Reuben's words, His blood is now required of us, in verse 22, which echo his past warning to shed no blood in Genesis 37:22, reinforce the link between what they are now facing and what they had done. Remember, Reuben said in Genesis 37 verse 22, Shed no blood, but cast him into this pit which is in the wilderness, and do not lay a hand of him, that he might deliver him out of their hands and bring him back to his father. And so to finish today, most of us surely have done things for which we are sorry. How can we, to whatever degree possible, make up for what we have done? Also, why is accepting God's promises of forgiveness through Jesus so critical for us? We turn to Romans chapter 5, verses 7 to 11. For scarcely for a righteous man will one die, yet perhaps for a good man someone would even dare to die. But God demonstrates his own love toward us in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Much more then, having now been justified by his blood, we shall be saved from wrath through him. For if when we were enemies we were reconciled to God through the death of his Son, much more, having been reconciled, we shall be saved by his life. And not only that, but we also rejoice in God through our Lord Jesus Christ, through whom we have now received the reconciliation. This lesson was read by Dr. Percy Harrold for Christian Services for the Blind. Sponsored by the Sabbath School Department and distributed through Hope Channel Australia, this podcast is also redistributed by Hope Channel Germany, Christian Record Services for the Blind, and It Is Written. It is also available on SoundCloud and through multiple podcast distributors, including Apple iTunes. Remember, God is always faithful.